Well, hello guys. Welcome to Topeka Insiders, episode number 16. Today I have the privilege and honor of having Sam Schneider, a good friend of mine, longtime friend of mine here and with me. So Sam, welcome.
Hey, it's good to be here. Really good. Really good to be here on episode 16.
Awesome, awesome. So we're going to dive into some awesome information here. So thank you so much for tuning in with us today. Well, Sam, recently you just launched your new company, Navispect. How
Yep.
about let's just start there. What do you do? Why did you launch that company?
So I wanted to help companies that were struggling with building really good software and then solving automation problems. So there's a lot of companies that have goals of what they want to do from a business perspective with software, but they either don't quite have the business model where they can hire out a full IT team, or they don't have the software skills in-house where they can really manage a project like that. So that was kind of one aspect of the business. I have a lot of background in enterprise software and that sort of thing, architecting systems. And so helping companies do that is something I love to do. But then the other side is there's a lot of small businesses, and we'll probably talk about this more in the interview, but
Yes.
that are, there's a lot of business processes that can be automated that people don't realize. Sometimes, like an example, I had this insurance claim recently where during the cold weather, my furnace backed up, the furnace drain, it froze solid, and I got some water in the house, and I'm thinking this is going to be thousands and thousands of dollars. So I get a claim, I do it, and I have a buddy come out that's kind of like a handyman, and he looks at it, and he cuts the trim off the top, and then he goes to the hardware store, he spends like $35. He comes back, pops a new piece of trim in. He's like, there's no mold issues here. This is all good. And he just fixes it this afternoon. And I was just like, okay, this thing I thought was, $10,000 is $200,
Mhm.
something like that. And I think that's true of a lot of businesses where, especially with AI advances, there's these quick wins that we just don't realize are available to us.
I see.
So I like to help with that.
So that was the whole I would say motivation behind you wanting to launch this new company.
Yeah, and then I want to have more impact on cities and people. And I just as an individual contributor in corporations, there's only so much you can do. You can build a team culture, and you can build really good technology, but it's hard to really transform a city and transform families. And I like
Wow.
that kind of stuff.
Very excited to dive into that. Well, let's rewind a little bit, Sam. So how old were you, or when did you just get into programming to get the whole thing started,
Yeah.
right?
Okay. So I'm one of those classic kids, where I was
Classic.
where I in the
He just
90s.
turned 21, so I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
full disclosure.
yeah. So in the 90s, my dad bought one of those old DOS computers, and I was just fascinated by it. And so I would always try to figure out if I could do anything with it, but there was no internet back. I mean, it existed. I didn't know about it, and we definitely didn't have it. And so we would go to bookstores, and I would go to the computer book section, and I would buy these books on like programming with C++ or Java or something. I'd come home and I'd read it, but I didn't have a computer to type anything into. And so I was just so drawn to it. So I would copy these programs out by hand on a notebook for a couple of years. And then finally we got a computer. We actually got the internet. And I got into building websites for people. And I did that all the way through high school. Um, and then I hit sort of that age where you kind of question everything.
Hmm.
And so I took a creative writing class in high school, and I was like, I want to be an English major and write poetry. I want to travel Europe. So so I just completely paused this whole aspect of my life. And I went to KU and I got an English degree. And
Oh, you did? I
oh
did not
yeah,
know.
dude,
I did
I'm
not
an
know.
English literature major nerd, all that stuff. I wrote poetry, I did all that stuff. And and then a few years later, I just kept getting drawn back into programming, and I thought, gosh, this ship has already sailed. Like I'm already out of college. I was working in the logistics industry overseas, and I was like, I there's no way I'll ever be able to program. I was probably 26 or something like that at the time.
Hmm.
And so on my spare time, I'd read more tutorials and take tutorials on programming and do little projects and stuff. And I was always the guy that would, in the company, it's like I would manage all the IT. It would just always fall to me, and I would always be the guy that do it.
Because that was your calling.
Yeah, exactly. So I got this. There was this one season where we had to make this really big transition. So we're actually moving back to Topeka, and I think I'll go into that some more later. But so I'm in this season, and I really believe in prayer and praying and asking God what to do about stuff. And so I said, God, at this point I was 29 years old, and I said, God, what do I do? Like my whole career has been in logistics, and I'm moving back to Topeka, Kansas, where there's not that many factories and companies like shipping from overseas. We do our own manufacturing.
Mm-hmm.
So I just get this thought that pops into my head immediately, and I write it down. I just don't know what to do with it. And the thought is, look into web development. And I'm like, who would hire me? I have no professional experience. Well, a few days later, I get on a phone interview with the vice president of a company in this region, not necessarily in Topeka. And it's for a logistics position. He's the vice president of logistics. And we have 2 phone interviews. And at the end of the last one, we have great chemistry. It seems awesome. And he says, I don't have any positions available in logistics. And I go, that's awesome. Thank you for the interview. But, like, I'm thinking, why did you interview me? He says, but I do have one available in web development. I'm not sure if you're interested in that.
Wow.
And I literally, the only thing I had on my resume was HTML and CSS. I'd actually taken everything else off my resume when I sent it because I wanted to tailor it, to logistics. So I go and interview for this, and they offer me the job, and I come in and I get started, and it's like the funnest thing ever. And
Wow.
so I've been did that for the next 9 years, and then now I'm launching a IT company. So
That's incredible. What a story. What a story. What a story. So, well, let's dive a little bit more into the software that you have built over the years. Like, what are some of the software pieces that really stand out to you?
Sure. So the first big project I got on when I'm a new programmer, still trying to figure things out, was this account management and payment system. And I'm a new programmer, and our daughter was actually born right when I started this. So I'm like super sleep deprived. And I'm like, I don't know if I should be working on this project. We're taking credit cards and stuff. And
Right.
to my knowledge, that system's still in place today, has been working great, and, been secure. So that was kind of the baptism by fire, sort of having to learn how to program on the job. And had really good mentors that really stepped in. There was a guy that taught over at K-State, and he would come and just spend a couple of hours just pulling apart all the code that I would write. And I just learned how to program from these people giving me feedback. Then later we got to this one where we had to build this imaging system. So, like, if you have like clothing that has embroidery or stuff like that, you always want to see what it looks like before you purchase it.
Oh, I see.
So we had one of those companies that could do custom embroidery, and so you can upload your custom images and stuff, and then we would have to marry those to the product and like resize them, rotate them, and all of that stuff.
Wow.
It was fun.
A lot of websites still cannot do that today, though, right?
Yeah,
Am I
we
right?
were early. We were early in our technology of being able to do that. So that was a fun that was one of those kind of do or die projects for the company where they basically said, hey, we've got 8 months to figure this out. If we don't, we may not be around as a company. Maybe they could have figured something else out, but that was sort of the mission that we had. And we didn't have any superstars. And this is one of the things that I've found in programming and software that's so fun, is that superstars are not always helpful. And that's probably true of most teams.
Yes.
Is all of us were average, but we trusted each other and we cared about each other, and we were all committed. And so we took this team of average people and solved this really difficult problem, ahead of the schedule. And we had almost no major hiccups. And to this day, the system's still running and going well.
Wow.
So
That's really inspirational. That's really inspirational. Thank you so much for sharing that, Sam. So back to Topeka here a little bit because I know you guys just recently moved back,
Yeah.
right? And you've been traveling throughout internationally.
Yeah.
By the way, Sam is fluent in Chinese as well. So if you have overseas companies, and he can definitely use that language
There you
skills out
go.
there big time.
Yeah.
He's very fluent.
Not about it.
So over the years, you grew up here in Topeka. Like, what some major changes have you witnessed, like from being in and out Topeka?
So when I was a kid, Topeka really relied on large corporations. I feel like, you had all my friends at school, the ones that had money, their dads worked at Payless. And watching Payless kind of go down was a sort of a scary feeling, I think, coming back. I mean,
It actually just happened recently, right?
right.
It was
Yeah.
like kind of like a split of a second. It was just gone.
Yeah. So that was sort of a bedrock of Topeka, it felt like, but it's been really cool to see innovation happen in the town and to see, I mean, I suppose everyone would talk about downtown, but really to see that when I was a kid, downtown was like a ghost town. You went there to Wolf's Camera, and that was the only
Oh
thing
yeah, that's
there.
right. That's right.
And I would wander around that store, and there was nowhere else even safe in downtown that I knew of.
Right.
And now it's different. It's a fun place.
People walk around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. People go there just to walk and have fun. And I think that I as a kid, and especially going to college, I went to KU, and when you'd say you're from Topeka, you'd say apologies or I'm sorry. Like there was this
Really?
oh yeah, there's this embarrassment about being from Topeka not that many years ago. And I really feel like that's changed. I feel like people are starting to have more excitement about the town and more hope for the future.
Hmm.
So
Wow,
yeah.
that's very exciting to see, and to hear about that too. So, Sam, like, what's your vision on helping not only local business here in town? Because I know you just plugged yourself back into the small business owners,
Yeah.
group,
Yeah.
and you're networking with a lot of the people here in town. So, what are some of the impacts and then things you want to do to local companies, not only local companies,
Yeah.
but because you're not
Yeah.
bound to any desk, you can
Right.
help anybody,
Right.
any company nationwide or
Yeah.
internationally.
hmm
So, what's your vision? What do you want to see that help these companies achieve?
Yeah. So the way I see it, working with like local companies and companies that are doing business in a locale is is sort of like think of my company sort of as like a CPA for technology.
Oh, wow,
So
that's a
right.
good way to
So,
see it.
so if I have like a CPA, I'm responsible for my own books. I'm responsible for my own processes. Ultimately, the IRS is going to come after me if something goes wrong.
Right.
But I'm going to get a CPA to check everything and make sure I'm doing everything correctly. And then the CPA is in a few areas. The CPA is going to go, hey, if you do it this way, you can save 15% on payroll taxes, or if you can, you can change something here to improve your business. So that's kind of what I do with local businesses and small businesses is come in and first just take a overview of the business. What is your security issues, right? So,
Oh, yeah,
you
that's
know,
super important. People don't even know about that,
yeah,
actually.
right. So, Target had this huge data leak a few years ago, and it cost millions and millions of dollars. But it's Target. Like you move on, you're okay.
Hmm.
But for a small business, that can end your business. And small businesses are handling tons of personal data for customers. I
Right.
mean, you have addresses, you have all kinds of stuff. If you lose that, you have business reputation issues, you have potential lawsuit issues, and all of that kind of stuff. And nowadays, there's really good technologies for managing these things, but that doesn't mean everyone's doing it. Just like there's really good technologies for managing your finances, your financial books, but not everyone's using them or
Hmm.
using them correctly.
Right.
So I kind of we check your processes. That's one thing. Just make sure you're not doing anything that's dangerous. But then the other thing is, as we're all trying to figure out how do we make money in an economy that is a little bumpy right now.
Right. Right. Right.
And so there's a lot of new tools that have come out, especially around AI. We've heard some of the stories. You hear people say stories like, "Oh, this guy that barely knew how to program He took this system that was quoted to be $800,000 development. He did it for $20,000 using ChatGPT. Those are few and far between right now.
Right.
But there's a lot of tools that can speed things up. Like I was practicing the other day, I was make me a website for and I took our friend Roger Dalby's environmental services, and I just typed in what he did, and it just spit a website out for me. A starter website, right?
Right, right,
Definitely
right, right.
tweak it. There's a lot of stuff that we've been putting off, just like I said at the beginning of this talk, where we think it's going to be a $10,000 expense and it's a $500 expense. And maybe we can, save, $4,000 a year on one of our business processes. And so that's something I'm really excited about with local companies is looking at the automations that you're currently doing and figuring out, what are the costly ones? What have a lot of manual input into them?
Mhm.
And are there tools out there that exist now that maybe 5 years ago when you looked were not possible to
Right.
use, and now you can?
That's very exciting. So for larger or even mid-sized corporations or companies, I think that might be something they want to look into that as well,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Especially when you have employees like 25 plus or
right,
maybe 10
right.
plus employees,
Yep.
you can definitely come in to see where you can, hey,
Mm-hmm.
streamline your processes
Yeah,
or your security breaches
yeah,
could possibly be.
right.
So definitely that's something I think you can help as well. Um, so from all these companies that you potentially have talked to or potentially work with or intend to work with them,
Yeah.
what has been some of the biggest struggles you've seen from them, especially small business owners?
Yeah, yeah. So one thing is coming back to security is just being confident that you haven't left a huge loophole in your system. And so um it's kind of easy to make those kind of mistakes, and there's really simple things that you can do. You're we're all running into it now of like when your phone is, you try to log in and it's like, please input this text message or go to your authenticator app.
Right,
And it's
right,
like,
right.
it's kind of frustrating. But according to Microsoft, that reduces like 99% of security breaches.
Really?
Yeah. I
99%?
mean, I'm literally quoting something that they said on their portal I was looking at today.
Wow.
So there's these little things that you're like, should I really do this or not? Maybe my employees will be upset. Man, do it. It's so worth it. And so just knowing what those things are, I think that's a big thing for companies right now.
That's awesome. That's a
Yeah.
very good tip there. So from your working experience, did you say you worked in programming for almost 10 years, going on 10
Yeah.
years, 10 plus
Yeah.
years? What has been some of the most memorable like experiences you had? Can you name
Yeah.
one or two
For sure.
that is coming back to you?
For sure. So the one that I mentioned about that image processing system,
Oh yeah, yeah.
that one, I was there with one of the software vendors we had. He had flown in from Canada, and we were having this little kind of meeting, and we just kicked off the project. The general manager of the company comes downstairs, and he shakes everyone's hand, and then he says, "Don't F this up or we're dead in the water." And he walked off. And that was just kind of like the that was the feeling of that project. It was just it was so high stakes, but it brought together a team in a way that I've never seen before. Some of the other stuff after that, I ended up getting to work in Hanes and Champion, the clothing brand.
Hmm.
And so that was really exciting because it was, sort of going from the smaller businesses where you're really the lifeblood of the business to then you're working on, a website that if you make a mistake, you'll be in the newspaper. And it was during COVID too. And so you're sitting in your home office and you're pushing a button that updates champion.com or Hanes.com. And you're like,
That's crazy.
you're just like, wow, this is just like so much responsibility, and we had this one, hopefully this is okay to share. I think it is, because it's quite a few years after the fact. But I remember there was a scaling capacity issue during Cyber Monday, right? So
Mhm.
you're trying to get ready for Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and we made it through Black Friday, but we had tweaked some stuff in the system, and we'd been working with some like outside partners, and something goes wrong. And I'm not going to go into the details of that, but it basically, the website would kind of like, it would hit a traffic spike and then it would just go down. And then we'd have to go into the system and change something, bring the website back up. But then as the users would start spiking again, it would go down again.
Oh man.
And so we had when we, in the background, we're like, trying to figure out what is going on, and we've got all these different suppliers and vendors on the call, and we're just not sure where it is. And so we're going through this, and we have this 24-hour meeting, again, right in the middle of COVID.
24-hour meeting.
24-hour meeting. I mean, like, actually it's probably 48 hours, but it was like 24 hours at a time. Like, and we were rotating through this call, and we've got like executives on the call and all this stuff.
Wow.
And we're just like, website's down again. We're, you're getting into the system and you're doing everything you can. Okay, it's back up. And in the meantime, we're figuring it out. And I would say that was probably a very formative experience for me, where we did end up finding the issue, and it was a setting. It was the database setting that we had to put in the background. And so that really taught me a lot about cutting corners, and that we have to be very, very conscious of the corners that we cut, the decisions that we make. Just again, to say, like, the Haynes team is awesome. They've built a great team. We were like, it happens to every company. But that was a very formative experience in my career.
Wow.
So
That's incredible. Thank you so much for sharing that. That was awesome. That's awesome. So you mentioned AI a little bit, things like that. I mean, when you're saying AI, somebody, a $100,000 project, somebody could have got it done for $20,000, right?
Yeah.
And then one thing hit my brain was really like Sheldon from Big Bang Theory. He said that was probable, but possible, but
Yeah.
probable wasn't probable.
Yeah.
So, but because I feel like no matter where the technology is going,
Yeah.
interpersonal interaction and also your experience cannot be replaced in a very intimate setting, right? Because there's no two businesses are identically the same.
Yeah.
So I guess my big question, or loaded question, is where do you see AI taking your field to? Because you guys have been going through a lot of turbulations and stuff,
For
as
sure.
far as I know.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. Yeah. I think a lot of people in the IT market that are looking for jobs right now are because the companies are going, do we need to hire this person, or can we wait another 6 months and see if, AI will be able to do this job? But I think for small business, medium-sized business, exactly what you said, AI, the more we get AI, the more we're going to get sick of AI. Like, when ChatGPT first came out, I was like, this is the most amazing writing I've ever seen.
Right.
Now we read ChatGPT writing and we're like, AI, I can tell. I don't know why I can tell, but I can just tell.
Right.
And people, I think, are going to actually find that they really like human interaction. And so small businesses, I think, because of the IT revolution, and then also just, Amazon and Walmart and these companies growing so big, a lot of the small businesses that were already in danger, I think, have already closed. The ones that are thriving right now are service-based, and those, I think, are going to be good. But the thing is to figure out what part of AI can you use. I like, for my website, I was like, I want to put some cool art on my website. And it's like, I can't pay a graphic designer right now to do this. I don't want to put that in the budget.
Right.
So I got in ChatGPT and I said, make me an image of a rocket ship launching. Make it stylized, make it simple. And I get this beautiful image, and people think I paid an artist for it.
Right.
And so there's a lot of things like that you can do with AI, especially if you're doing anything with like document scanning, transcriptions, interviews. Like, you just need to be really careful not to be paying someone to do something that AI can do now.
I see.
So use those tools, I would say, for small businesses. You can save a lot of money.
That's awesome. That's a really good tip. I've been heavily using AI as well myself. And then I was having a conversation with another person the other day, and then they were saying that this wave of coming back, we're pushing back AI generated images is already happening.
Yeah.
Because once you see 4, 5, 10 of this, you find they're all pretty much the same.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's true.
So anyway, so I think human interaction, and then this, because we're all humans, and that element can never, in my opinion, be replaced. From business dealings.
Yeah.
Well, Sam, one last loaded question for you. So for the
Yeah.
next 10 years, what
Yeah.
impact would you like to have on this planet in Topeka local market
Yeah.
with your new company?
So
What do you see?
I'm going to start with Topeka first, is that I see a lot of people in Topeka that care about the town, and having grown up here, I love that. I really want to see Topeka become even more innovative. And I think a lot of times when we think about making Topeka innovative, we're thinking about putting policies in place.
Mm-hmm.
San Francisco is one of the most innovative cities in the world, and it has basically some of the worst policies possible for small business startups. I'm sure there's some, things they do for small businesses, but the cost of living is terrible. The crime's not amazing. There's a lot of downsides to the town, but the one thing is it has a culture. And if you want to do a startup, you go to San Francisco if you have $1 billion startup, because you're going to meet the people you need to know.
I see.
And so I want to see that in Topeka, where we find a way to build that culture through meetups, through kind of bringing those people here, having conferences, having those type of things to get the culture here. If we get the culture, the people will come. We don't
That's right.
have to worry about policies as much as we think. We need the culture. So that's number one. I want to see that happen. Number two, I just took this trip with my family overseas again this summer, and I got to meet all these kids in this not quite village, but they're like 20 or 30 kids that were just kind of like they hadn't had an American in their town for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, and many of these kids are 6, 7 years old. They never seen one before, and they were asking me all these questions, and they just wanted to hang out. And I would play basketball with them, and their basketball goal, they had a basketball. Their basketball goal was monkey bars. And they would shoot the ball through the monkey bars. And if it went through, you got a point. So I played basketball with these guys, and most of them are between 8 and 14. And I'm just thinking, these kids, they don't have an entry into the global marketplace right now. They don't speak English. And only one of them had a computer. I asked them.
Mm-hmm.
They all have phones, but I really want to help kids in countries around the world get into the global marketplace, learning maybe it's not English, whatever language they need to. I think English for IT, you need that.
Right.
And then training them in those skills so that by the time they hit 18, they already have that mindset of getting into tech training. When they're 20, 22, they can enter the marketplace and they can make a good salary instead of, being stuck to just the locale that they're at. I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities around the world for that.
Oh, 100%.
So
100%. I think that's a great vision for you to have. I think the size of the earth is shrinking, because with the technology.
Yes.
And you're going to provide a huge bridge and a very meaningful bridge for people who want to get on that bridge.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Sam, thank you so much for your time. This has been a great interview. And if you guys need any assistance from this amazing software architect, Sam Schneider, please reach out. I'll link his website in the description of this video as well. So,
cool.
Sam, thank you so much.
Thank you, Chen. Appreciate it.
Thank you.